Hi, welcome to my home. My name is Kathy, and in today's video we're going to be making hummus in a jar. This is a canning recipe that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and today I decided today is the day, and so I thought I'd bring you along so that you can see how it goes together, and in the end I'll whip up a batch so we can see if it's worth doing again. So when we come back, we'll be in my kitchen and we'll get this put together. The Instant Hummus in a Jar is out of the Not Your Mama's Canning book. You will find it on page 103. For this recipe, it yields 6 pints, but I'm going to do 9 pints, so I'm going to increase the number on everything. But for the 6 pints, it says you'll need 1.5 pounds of dried garbanzo beans, or aka chickpeas, water, 1.5 cups of toasted sesame seeds, 18 large cloves of garlic, lightly smashed and peeled, and 1.5 cups of lemon juice. Since my sesame seeds are not toasted, that's the first thing I'm going to do is toast my sesame seeds. In this back stock pot, I have my garbanzo beans in water. They're heating up. The recipe calls to soak them overnight, or you can do a quick soak on them, and which I did. And before putting them in the jars, you're supposed to bring them up to a boil and let them boil for a minute. I'm going to get these sesame seeds toasting, and then I'm going to skim off the foam from the beans. So now my dry skillet is warming up. It's pretty hot at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and add my sesame seeds. Since I'm 1.5ing this recipe, I'm going to use about 2.25 cups. Let's eyeball it here. Doesn't have to be exact. Close enough. I end up with a little bit more on the sesame seeds, and I'll just add a little bit more to each jar. It won't hurt anything. Now I'm going to heat these sesame seeds in this dry skillet for 3 to 5 minutes. It might take a little bit longer since I have so many in the pot, but what I'm looking for is the sesame seeds to become nice and toasty, colored, just a little bit brown, and start to take on kind of a nutty smell. I don't want to overcook them, so I'll just watch them really carefully, and then once they're done, I'll put them out directly onto a plate or into a dish so that they stop cooking. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this, but my sesame seeds have gotten nice and toasty. They have a light brown to them. I can hear them popping, some of them. And they do have a nutty scent to them, aroma. So now I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to get these turned out onto my dish so that they stop cooking. I'm going to start by adding 1/4 cup of sesame seeds to each of the jars. My jars are clean, but they are not sterilized. Since I will be pressure canning, there really isn't a need to sterilize the jars, but you just want to make sure they're good and clean. Next, I will be putting 3 garlic cloves in each of the jars. These garlic cloves had been frozen I bought them a big bag of pre-peeled garlic cloves from either Sam's Club or Costco, not sure which. I just threw them in my freezer. I just thawed them out, and they'll be perfect to use in this. I just want to smash each one down just so it releases all of that flavor during the canning process. And if you don't like garlic, you can certainly leave it out or, add less. I'm just going to use a slotted spoon to get the garbanzo beans out of the hot water. I'm going to fill the jars, leaving a generous 1-inch headspace. Those are hot. That bean doesn't look very good, so I'll just get that out of there right away. Now I did, as the beans were cooking, as the foam came up to the top of the pan, I did skim that off. Oops. Okay, now I'm going to add 1/4 cup of lemon juice to each jar. And as I'm going along, I'll go ahead and fill the rest of the jar with water from the pot. When I'm all done filling my jars, I'll check my headspace and debubble all of them. This lemon juice is just for flavoring. It is not to add acid or acidity to the garbanzo beans. So adding of the lemon juice does not make these jars able to be water bath canned. They do still need to be pressure canned. I'm just going to go through with a chopstick and debubble them. And I'll go through and add a little bit of water on each of them that are a little low. Go through and double check. And a 1-inch headspace, basically you're wanting to get it to that bottom, that first ring on the jar, that bottom lip. That's approximately 1 inch. So that's what you're looking for on that. Okay, so now I'll just wipe my rims with a wet paper towel. This also gives me a chance to take another feel of the rim to make sure there aren't any nicks in the glass. So I'm going to put on my lids. My lids are clean, but since we are pressure canning, I did not put them in hot water to get soft. Put on a ring. Fingertip tight and into the canner. Okay, so our jars of hummus are in the canner. Now I'm going to process these for 75 minutes at 15 pounds of pressure. Please check your canner and your altitude to find out what pressure you should be canning at. But for my altitude and my canner, I process at 15 pounds. I do use a weighted gauge. If I were using a dial gauge like what's on my Presto canner, then I would process at 13 pounds. So because this is a weighted gauge and I'm above 1,000 feet, I process at 15 pounds. Again, please check your altitude in your canner to determine how many pounds of pressure you should be processing at. But since these are pints, we will be processing for 75 minutes. And once we're done, I'll bring you back and I'll whip up one of these jars to show you how it turns out. They are all done processing and sealing up beautifully. Okay, it's the next day now. All of my jars sealed wonderfully. They're nice and cold. And so let's go ahead and put one of these together so you can see, or we can both see, how it turns out. Okay, so for this part you're going to need either a food processor or a blender. You just need to make sure you have your metal blade on. I'm going to go ahead and open the jar. Nice good seal. Now it says to drain out the liquid and reserve it to add later, but this is pretty congealed, so I don't think I'm going to have much liquid to come out. Okay. all of this in the jar. So if your jars do have some liquid in them, then strain your bean mixture through a fine colander so that you capture all the seeds. You don't lose any of the seeds, and then reserve the liquid to add in if need be. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get this blended up. All right. Let's see how it is. Ooh, very garlicky. Good thing I like garlic. I'm going to blend it just a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and give this a taste. Not bad. I think I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of olive oil. The recipe in the book says you should just be able to blend it up and have yourself some hummus. And sure, yes, you can do that, but I think adding a little bit of olive oil will give it a little bit smoother of a texture. It is very citrusy, so I think if I made this again, I might cut back on the garlic a little and cut back on the lemon juice a little bit. Or maybe adding some salt and some oil will help that. So let's give that a try. All right, just add a few pinches of salt. And I'm going to blend it while I'm adding the olive oil. That seemed to help the texture of it. Let's give it a taste. That's much better. So definitely needed some more salt and the olive oil to help smooth it out. And I know that there's other things you generally would add to hummus that you could certainly add to this, but this is supposed to be a quick hummus, an all-inclusive in the jar. But definitely a little more salt and the olive oil that tamed down the citrus that's in it, and also the garlic. So that that is great. Let me go ahead and get this dished out. So there we have it. It makes a decent amount of hummus. As you can see, it's pretty smooth. You still have a little bit of the, you can definitely see the sesame seeds in there, which is not a problem. And I can imagine you can also play with the flavors on it. If you want to add maybe some bell pepper, or even some spicy peppers, or whatever it is that you like to add to your hummus. So in the comments below, let me know what you like to add to your hummus and what you think might taste good in here. That is definitely a win, and I'm looking forward to having that on my shelf for the summer. Well, if you liked today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified each time I put out a new video. Well, until next time, I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye now.